What are you doing, Sabi? So we have this 2024 Chevrolet 2500 HD Duramax High Country Z71, like the longest name in the automotive business. But for some reason, it does not have very good backup lights. This truck is equipped with the LED tail lights. I mean, it's pretty much top of the line, I guess. And there's LEDs in there, I think 4 of them on each side. But if you look at this image, it just doesn't work that well at night, especially with the black asphalt driveway. And if you're backing up in the rain and stuff, it's just not acceptable. You can't see anything out of the mirrors. Maybe if you turn on the cargo lights, that turns these lights on, and that's a little bit helpful. But I feel like for nearly $100,000 truck, the backup lights shouldn't need help. And I figured if we're gonna be doing lighting and wiring and switches, I might as well fill in this spot that almost looks like something needs to be here. You see how the bumper steps down and the grille steps up, like to leave this slot. It's just begging for an LED bar. And the folks at Nilight have just what we need. If you remember, that's who we used for the lighting on the square body when we did the HID LED bulbs in all the high and low beams. This is what we're gonna use for the auxiliary backup lights. They're nice looking little cubes. They have their own connections on them. And it comes with this wiring harness that has this flush mount rocker switch. So unfortunately, you'll have to drill a hole into something to mount it unless you make your own, I don't know, switch panel or something that you can put somewhere, which that'd be pretty cool too. Part number for these is W0610B, and you can just search that Nilight on Amazon and find these. I'll put a link in the description, but I noticed the last time that I did that, Amazon links eventually expire, and so if that's true, just search that on Amazon. We also picked up this light bar. This is 40033C-A. And although we have enough room for like a 36-inch bar in that grill, I think Nilight only makes like a 33, and then it goes up to a 41. So I think this is the 33 version, and it has some spot and flood capability, which is kind of what you want. So you get all the light that you need. And I bought the harness separately. It comes with this pigtail, which kind of be nice if you wanted to tie it in with like your fog lights or something, I guess. But this little wiring kit with this super long part number comes with a surface mount switch, which I kind of like. The only downside to these is it has a light on here even when the lights are switched off, which can be kind of annoying if you want to concern yourself with the amperage draw of that, but no drilling required. And so it has an output for a pigtail that comes with it that you just connect. This one is considered their ultra thin. We probably could have gotten away with just the thin bar because there's a lot of space kind of still left here for mounting it, and that would have been cool probably if it was full of lighting, but I think that's going to look real nice. Make sure, or I'm going to make sure and measure this gap that's here, so when one of these is removed, I'll know exactly kind of how I should mount it height-wise, because I may modify those brackets so the light bar will sit dead center in this space. Oh, we're in luck. So you see that clip right there? That little trim piece just clips to the bumper. So I will not have to remove the grill or the bumpers. Before we start taking this truck apart to do this install, we're gonna check and make sure all of our lights work and the wiring is good. And I will mail a sticker to the first subscriber who comments below with what pro tip number we first stated to do that. Here is the light bar. Yeah, that works. Little backup lights. Yeah. Looks like they're kind of, well, you can see the flood around the edge and the spot in the center, which that'll get larger the further away you are from an object. I don't know how visible that is on your screen. It looks great from here. Yeah, it's pretty obvious how there's flood, and then there's a spot section that's very centered on this bar, which again, the further away you get from an object, the larger that spot's going to become. It's also a good time to point out On this truck, of course, it's dual batteries. This GM offered a blank. There was nothing here on this post, which has a 175 amp maxi fuse. I did have to provide the nut for that post. And then I fastened this ground here to both of our lighting kits, and it basically just goes back here and grounds to the fender. The cool thing is those wires will lay down in a purpose molded place to feed wires in to this little power panel. Now I'll just need to do some cable management with what happens to them under the hood, and we can start running the lights. After measuring, this is actually like a 30-inch light bar. Lens area is about 30 inches wide of what your lighting is. And with the mounts, of course, you could probably choose to mount these on inboard or outboard, but because of the way these clips are, I need to put the mounts facing outboard, which gives me a nice measurement of 32 1/4 across those. So I found center and marked it, and then marked 32 1/4 on this trim piece. So that's where we need to drill and bolt the mounts to this. However, these are a little bit too tall. It would be above center in our spacing between the grill. We're actually going to have to drill a new hole on each of these mounts, a 1/4 inch below where the factory holes are, and then cut off that excess because it would look silly sticking up. Also, it'll make it easier to install this once that's done. Here's our brackets after trimming them and drilling our holes at the location we need them to be so our light will be sitting at the right height. Good fit. Let me get my angle grinder and I'm just going to knock this excess length off. I went ahead and put some 2-inch tape on our bumper, so if we do make a little mistake here, it shouldn't scratch the paint immediately. And I dropped the connection down from the relay to where we're going to need it when we set the light in here. This was not fun to try to get in here. There you go. Okay. Gonna be a lot of slack for now. We will work that out later. It's gonna make your life a lot easier if you have an Allen headed socket that you can use to tighten this screw in. Because using a regular like 90-degree Allen wrench, oof. Oh, also, I need to put some blue Loctite on this because last thing I want is for one of these little guys to back out. Ooh. That'll be plenty. There's one. That looks good. Get this tape off. It looks good. It's tucked in there nice. It's got a real stealth kind of styling to it. I guess if it was super important to you to have it sticking way out, you could probably just mount it into your steel bumper. Just keeping in mind it's not arched, so it'll be kind of flush here and then sunk back in the middle. But I kind of like that style. It's not screaming high school LED light bar, but it does have it. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, I think there's going to be some really good light output from where it's mounted. I dig it. Based on what you're working on, you'll just have to find you a spot that works to run the wires for the switches through the firewall. I ended up using the place where my hood pop cable goes through, and just cut a small notch in the grommet. I did have to unpin the connector on one of the switches and also disconnect the spades on this switch because it wouldn't go through the firewall hole fully assembled. Just take pictures of it and use as a reference so you know which wires to hook to where. So yeah, and I drilled this as a 3/4 inch hole to mount. This is going to be those backup auxiliary lights. This is the push button for turning on the grill light, and I'm not going to place it just yet. I want to be in the truck driving and make sure that it's somewhere that I don't see this off light all the time. Otherwise it can get really annoying if it's in your line of sight. So what we've got next is the backup light install and wiring. Now the switch is already done like I just showed you, but I'm gonna have to run this to the back of the truck, which certainly won't be long enough. So I'll splice in a positive and ground right here and add to get to the rear of the truck. And of course I always use the crimp and seal connectors because anytime you're doing automotive stuff, you want to make sure and use a good solid connection for that. Now that I've got this extension cord ran essentially all the way to the back, it's time to come to that final decision about where to mount these lights. And I have thought about putting them flushed into like these panels right here. I thought that would look really clean, but the way the structure is inside there, it's just not conducive for it. It would take a half a day as well to pull the bumper off and pull everything out. This is like 150 pieces to this rear bumper. And it still wasn't gonna work out as far as the install. I'd had to build brackets and everything just for it to look cool. And honestly, I just don't have that kind of energy. Also considered mounting them up in these step pockets, which they look kind of cool from the back, but they look terrible from the side. So that wasn't gonna work. There's no way to put them inside the structure of this bumper, and I certainly don't want them mounted up here like that because that's atrocious. Looks like we're gonna end up mounting them in these little notches here in the rear bumper. It actually kind of curves up and then back down, and these can be sort of centered in that nice and tight. It doesn't look terrible. It doesn't hang down below anything that would make contact if you were doing like a really sharp egress angle from something. These lights certainly wouldn't be anything that would make contact first. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, so the last bit of this, now that these are both mounted, is to tie them back together and put them on this extension that I made and get that zip tied up. We'll be done with this little project. Some of the most difficult parts of little jobs like this is making the decisions about like, where are you gonna run it? Where do you want your switches? Where are you gonna mount it? And after that, it's just like, you know, do the work. But the quality of these Nilights, like, I mean, everything threaded in properly. It came with 100% of the hardware that you're gonna need. It even came with the Allen wrenches that you're gonna use to tighten that stuff if you don't already have a bunch of tools. So it's pretty convenient for a lot of folks that are just sort of weekend projects and such. Okay, before I go doing the heat shrink on these connectors and zip tie them up where they're gonna live, do one more test of the lights. That switch. Lord, those are so bright. Holy crap. I mean, I'm 6'1", 6'2", depending on which gas station I'm leaving, and when I'm 10 feet behind this truck, those things are bright like spots at me. Definitely have no problem reversing with these tonight when we do our test. Also, I feel sorry for anyone who maybe wants to tailgate. If you have a set of these, you can flip on at will. Apologize to you guys in advance for not dealing with the camera angles properly on this, because it is really satisfying to watch that heat shrink do its thing. I'll take a picture, show you guys kind of the end results. Lights on, lights out. I'm in my yard without them and with them. I can definitely see what I'm backing up and doing now with those lights on there. It's a huge difference. May need to aim them a little bit though, because it seems to be pointing up in the trees back there behind me. Let's see what our headlights do for us. That's low beam, high beam, and then our new light bar. Successful night test. Overall, I'm completely satisfied with these Nilight lights once again. I mean, I want to say especially for the price, but honestly, I don't know how much better they could be even if you paid more for them. Also, here's where we ended up mounting our stuff because it's not visible at all from the driver's seat with it being right there. And although these are a little bit more spot than they are flood, you can adjust them and get them to where they work best for you. Still completely happy. Also, I kind of like them for tailgaters, if you know what I'm saying. Hope this video was helpful. Appreciate you guys watching this far, and don't forget to subscribe to GreaseMonkeyTV if you love America.